What's going on, everyone? My name's Alex. That's Eileen. You're watching Straight to the Chicane podcast, and today we're going to be talking about the Spanish GP.
And for those of you who don't know, it was a Mercedes one too. Just kidding.
Just to get this thing started right, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, or comment on anything you'd like to see or talk about. We're trying to grow this community here, and we would love your input. So I think this weekend...
Let's talk about the low anticipation race that we had with high expectations.
Well, yes.
So this race definitely under-promised and over-delivered, which is the best way to do anything if you guys know anything. Like, never over-promise a situation. So everyone was like, oh, God, it's Barcelona. It's going to be slow. There's not going to be any overtaking. There's going to be, like, no drama. It's going to be boring. Just kidding. So
they do a lot of testing here throughout the years. You even hear the announcer say, like, Sergio Perez has been here, 14 times?
Well, that's like in his whole career.
Yeah, but they've been here a lot. You know, they come here for testing. They were here already for earlier this year for testing. And so they kind of have a baseline. And so coming into here, a lot of teams brought a lot of updates.
Oh my God, everybody brought updates.
Not everybody, one team.
Okay, Haas didn't bring anything.
Yeah, that's true. Now, Haas did not bring any updates, they say. And, so they have to prove it to the FIA. And show
they didn't, obviously.
So they did. Yeah. But yeah, so traditionally, they had the baseline earlier this year. They were able to say and bring some new updates for it. And we had, was it Sam from F1? He was just walking up and down for the tech talk, just nonstop, every single team. Oh my God.
Yeah, and even FP1, they're like, we're going to try and show you every single car because there's so many updates, and I don't even think they got through all the cars.
Right.
McLaren brought the most. They brought 10. And then I think it was, I want to say Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin had 8 upgrades. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Even though it felt like Aston Martin had the most since they brought basically a whole new design.
Well, they were the most talked about. They were, considered the
green Red Bull.
The green Red Bull, which Red Bull kind of played into it a little bit and kind of mocked them and used social media. They
didn't even just use social media. Like, literally Friday, I think during FP1 and FP2, they all had the green Red Bull on the pit wall. It was hilarious. Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that kind of circled around the internet a lot, which was
good
funny.
For them.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize that somebody from the aerodynamics team at Red Bull actually left and went to Aston Martin. So the big controversy was, was there information that was shared? So
yeah. The FIA says they're all good, so I'm going to say they're all good.
Yeah, hey, the FIA is very fair. So.
Yeah, so speaking of practice one still, one of the new rules for this year is that all the teams have to allow for 2 practices for up-and-coming rookie drivers or promising, junior drivers.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we got to see a few of those guys, young kids, actually.
Well, not just young. We saw Robert
Kubica. Yeah, he's still
around. He's still circulating.
Test driving and still driving. Yeah, Formula One cars, which is pretty impressive if you know the accident that he got into many years ago and lost a lot of parts of his feelings in his hands, but was able to kit it back and to be able to operate an F1 car still is pretty cool.
Yeah, so we saw that this weekend. So Nick DeVries for Williams.
Yeah, he looked pretty
performed
good.
Really good, actually. Yeah. And then 6, right? For Red Bull? Is that his last name?
Vips.
Vips, yes. Why did I think 6?
Yeah, it's close.
I'm thinking of someone who works for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, interesting. So Sergio missed out on free practice 1, and then Albon missed out.
Yeah, and Albon seems like it kind of hurt him a little bit for missing out.
It does. Either that or the red hair curse. It's been helping him, but then they were like literally everybody was dyeing their hair red this weekend.
Went a little overboard.
Crofty,
yeah,
everybody. So,
I didn't see Crofty's a photo of Crofty, so I didn't see that. But
I saw
you told me.
Ted Kravitz dyed his hair too, but I feel like it was just the underpiece. It was like everybody was getting different designs, and it was just spray paint, you know, or like hair spray.
Hair paint, yeah.
But yeah, no, who knows? It was a tough day for him, then getting the penalty on top of everything. So,
Yeah, and before we move on, speaking of practice one, we saw the first drone shots starting.
Oh God, we're getting into it already.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's kind of an elephant in the room for me. And I'm sure a lot of people noticed it's the last section. It was sector 3 near the end.
Everybody noticed.
Yeah, everyone did notice that there was a FPV drone, which is typically about this big, and they usually either put like a GoPro or a small little action camera on it. And so F1 decided to take a live feed from one of those FPV drones, and I'm sure they hired a very talented user, an operator pilot, but
is this your bid to get hired by F1 for the
no,
drone?
I mean, I don't do really FPV. I do more traditional cinematic. However, I know what they wanted to do. They were trying to get them a little bit more dynamic movements, kind of make it cooler, and I applaud them.
I think we agree that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're cool with the helicopter cam.
I just think you need to you can either add another helicopter, or if you're trying to save money.
They probably can't.
Oh, they can. Or if you're trying to save some money, they could add another cable cam. So they have the cable cam that's usually on the straight or the pit straight, going between between the starting grid and then going into the pit lane. Add another 2 people or 3 people to operate another one in that sector back there.
Yeah. No, I agree. We don't need the drone cam unless it's going to actually keep up with the cars. Because for me, it's just like a wide angle shot of like, what car is that?
Yeah, it's just.
Is that a Red Bull? I think it might be a Ferrari. You can't even tell. You can't even differentiate the color.
Yeah, I mean, so like, I thought, all right, they're testing it for practice. Mm-hmm.
I know you still didn't think it was going to be actually in the race.
I didn't think it was going to be. I did not think it was going to be in the race. I did see their flight path, and they didn't really have any stands or any spectators underneath them. It was pretty much in a closed section area where, so they could fly it, no problem. But man, it was the shot, the way that it was captured was just not professional enough yet. I think they can get there. Hiring the right team with the right FPV drones that can go 80, 90 to 100 miles an hour. See, drones right now are capped at 99 miles an hour. They can't go any faster. However, those rules can change. You can petition for all those.
Can you guys tell that he works in the film industry? Because I hope you can.
I'm a licensed and certified drone.
That's why we're getting so deep into the drone camera.
Yeah, sorry.
He does not like it.
I don't like it. And you can't change my mind right now.
We're not feeling like it's a great addition.
No.
We're feeling like a lot of people feel that way. It's very unclear, very bouncy. The wind obviously affected it this weekend too. So.
Well, so the whole point of an FPV drone is to not keep it It's to keep
Let's not get so granular and detailed.
Sorry.
Let's talk about F1.
That's why we're here, really.
So we don't like the drone camera. Do you like the drone camera?
Yeah.
We
want to hear it because I don't, and I don't think you do either. So that was starting in FP1 and continued throughout all practice
and the race.
What else did we see? We saw a couple mistakes here and there for practice. We saw nothing too major. No one really had any major problems other than like overheating the cars. There was a couple.
The tires were the issue. So it was super hot. Mm-hmm. Super hot. I thought Miami was hot.
Yeah.
I guess I'd have to be in Barcelona to know if it was hotter than Miami, but it felt like the teams were obviously saying it was hotter. The track was crazy hot.
And then if you read what people are talking about after the race, everybody was hot. All the spectators were hot. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I think they were shocked about these tires. Yeah. I figured maybe the hards were going to be pretty good, but this didn't seem like anybody was using it.
I think there was 2 sets of hards used all weekend.
Yeah. No one really used them.
So
I mean, but then you heard them talk during practice that the softs were only lasting for Albon 1 lap.
Yeah.
For a couple other people, 8, not even.
I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, I guess it just depends, but
yeah.
Yeah, we had the hardest compound all weekend of all the tires. So, I mean, That was tough. The heat was tough. So there wasn't much in practice. I mean, Gasly didn't get to go out in free practice 3, so he made it out for qualifying. Lando Norris was pretty sick. He had an issue where he messed up his car in free practice.
Yep.
And so he was out for a little bit of time, lost a little bit, but that was probably good for him just to be able to make it through. He didn't
look good right from the beginning of the weekend. He looked like he was either fighting something or a little sick, and it turned out he has
tonsillitis.
Yeah, so they were kind of trying to keep them hydrated and cool the whole entire weekend.
Yeah.
But, I mean, still performing in a F1 car, doing his job, and I think he ended up
in the points.
He did.
After
near the bottom of the points.
He qualified out of the points.
That's right.
So,
yeah. What else did we notice going into qualifying, I guess?
Oh, my God. Besides the Green Bull and, like, the expectations high for that?
If during practice, the Aston Martin was looking actually pretty good.
It was. At one point, it was a 1-2-3 Red Bull.
Yeah.
Max, Vettel, Perez. So, you never know. You never know. But it was also like during practice, it was a 2-3 or a 1-3 Mercedes. So you just, you don't really know. You're like, okay, does Mercedes have their engine turned up? So the big thing this weekend was Mercedes seemed to have fixed their porpoising. Majorly. There wasn't a whole lot of porpoising coming down the straight. So is Mercedes back was the question going into qualifying, going into this weekend. So I took a little poll. It seemed like, I think like 97% of people were like, Mercedes is back. Like, this is it.
And I do too. I think so. After watching the race, because we're here post-race,
I absolutely think so.
Yeah, they're back for sure. I think they got to
they're not all the way there, but like the big thing was they have to fix their porpoising first. So other teams like Red Bull hasn't had any issues with porpoising this whole.
Well, they had some, but they were able to get it dialed in early on,
like
early
in Barcelona.
Yeah.
Okay, so they haven't had any. They had reliability issues, but they did not have porpoising issues. So they were able to bring upgrades like immediately, whereas Ferrari had to fix porpoising. So did Mercedes, which was a little bit more challenged. And then they took their extreme approach with their car. So if they fixed it, now are we going to see better upgrades for them? So I think this may have just been the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. I think they needed to figure out the car. Look, Mercedes, their engineers, their departments, their team leader, Toto, they're all very smart people. They are 8-time constructor champions. So it was a huge surprise that they were kind of so far back. But I think, look, they're just doing analysis, trying to figure everything out. They took these first few races really to dial everything in. And like George Russell said, if you watched any of his conferences, the season starts now. Mm-hmm. He said that, after today's race, I bet. And he's also been very consistent, top 5 in all of the races.
He has
been. And today he finished on the podium.
Yes.
So the car hasn't been that far off.
But I mean, when you look at the time, I mean, they were nowhere in comparison.
If you're looking at times and lap times and
even today, I'm like, it's hard to tell because obviously Mercedes had the issues with their like last 5 laps. But George was far off the pace.
Yeah. So today at the race, one of the Mercedes had, it seems like a gas consumption issue, which with Lewis, and then the other had some heating and cooling issues. Mm-hmm. So
we'll see.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to Monaco next. They better perform. We need to see like 3 teams at the front. We deserve it. And we deserve Mercedes to
be we're there.
Battling for a freaking win.
I mean, I think we're there. Look, I even think the top of the midfield, people are battling with Haas. And McLaren's kind of struggling. I mean, Daniel has not quite performed how he should be. He's been out of the points more than he's been in the points, it seems like.
I know. Well, he's typically right on the bubble, I feel like, of getting points. So it's tough. But I'll tell you who, and I know we haven't even talked about qualifying, but Alpine has not been the greatest qualifying car, but they have really great race pace.
Yeah, really struggled in qualifying.
Really great.
Especially this weekend. They were
both out of the top 10.
They were. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, Alonso was out in Q3.
It's crazy.
But
look good. Yeah. Very good race. And he's a very good racer. And the car seems to have good race pace.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for qualifying.
I'm like, let's talk about qualifying.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the biggest thing really that I took out of it, and it was a little bit because of Norris getting his lap time taken away, but was Schumacher finally getting into Q3.
Yeah, both Haas were in Q3.
Both Haas in Q3, which has happened before. I think it was 2017.
Years ago.
2018. I think it was right around that time frame when they were up in the.
So Haas got both cars into Q3. Aston Martin completely brought a new car, and both cars didn't get out of Q1. So
yeah, Vettel was shook. He was shocked. I was kind of shocked
opposite
too.
side of the spectrum.
For how much every Red Bull and everybody they were all
Oh my
complaining.
God. The talk,
and all the talk.
It was like, Aston Martin was going to win the race. Like, that's how it was being speculated. Like, they stole Red Bull's car and brought it. Like, they literally put it on a tow truck, brought it here, and repainted it.
Just painted it green.
And they were like, okay, Aston Martin, you
the paint was still
cheater,
dripping.
pumpkin eater. So, yeah, no, both were out in Q1. So, that was, I would say, the two big highlights. This is probably the first qualifying session where we've seen, like, Mercedes perform strong, both cars, because I feel like all season it's been, like, one or the other has struggled and either been knocked out in Q2, knocked out in Q3. So we saw it where it was a good battle at the top. I mean, a couple hundredths off the top. And so it was interesting, like, is Russell going to take pole? Like, we kind of didn't know going into Q3. And then the biggest thing with it was, the steward said no holding up the times.
Yeah, so it seemed like
they had to stick to their delta.
Yeah, because
nobody did.
The track was so hot that they were going slower than normal for their warm up laps or their not
overcook the tires.
Not overcook the tires, and you were also kind of seeing that in sector time wise.
Q3 or sector 3 is where everybody was dropping off.
Yeah, or if they were holding it back in sector 1, they had a really, really good sector 2 and a pretty good sector 3.
Yeah.
So there was a couple options on what teams were doing and what each individual racer was doing too. But
we saw 55 violations in qualifying.
Yeah, that was pretty big too.
55 violations. And I remember it because Pierre's engineer came on and was like, okay, announcement for you and for all drivers. No more holding up.
That was Q2 coming out on a Q2. Yeah, because Q1, at the end of Q1, some of the drivers didn't get the second run. Or maybe it was a third run. I can't really remember.
No, I feel like George and Lewis pretty much almost missed it. Lewis didn't actually do better, but George made the line just right. Did he?
Yeah, because the announcer said that he missed it, but I think you're right. He did make it.
No, he did. He ended up making it, but barely, because it was like everybody was holding each other up. So that was the biggest thing. And then we saw Leclerc do a little spin in his first run in Q3. So,
and that was in turn 4.
Was it in turn 4?
Yes, turn 4. It was. He kind of just.
Everybody just lost it in turn 4 this weekend. Okay, everybody just lost it, but lost it on their own.
What they were, what the announcers were saying, it seemed like there was some sort of tailwind and probably some gusts that were throwing them off, because it wasn't like every time someone was going off at turn 4, Leclerc, Charles, Max, they were by themselves.
Yeah.
There was nobody around them, so
Charles didn't get a first lap in Q3, so it was like, okay, what's going to happen? Max was on provisional pole. You know how I feel.
Leclerc Q3 in 10th, a couple minutes left, not even.
And I'm like, this is how I feel about Q3. Like, why can't they go out before 2 minutes left? It's like they all go, so everybody goes out at the beginning. And then they're like, let's go back in. We'll just take a little breather. We'll just do a little, we'll just relax in the garage for a second. And then they all go out with 2 minutes left to spare. It's like,
yeah.
Is that just like how we need to do it? Because it's like a mind game.
So the strategy is to try to be the last car in the thing to have the most grip, because that means that's the most.
Yeah, because there's more stuff.
Most rubber on the track, and you're the last one of that session, right? So that's their goal, is trying to do something like that. I imagine.
I get it, but I'm like, then I feel like they're rolling the dice.
Well, years and years ago, there was all kinds of different ways to do qualifying, and there have been talks on some of the other YouTube channels bringing up this thing as possibly doing different type of qualifying instead of the Q1, Q2, and Q3 like we are used to now. You could do where you do an average of a time, like an IndyCar, where you take like 3 laps and it's an average. You could do. They've done it before in Formula One, and I don't think it lasted very long. It wasn't a very good one, where they were all out and there was a time limit, and every minute or every few minutes, the person in last place just got eliminated. And so, like, it was just, as the time went down, it just became smaller and smaller. And if you made a mistake...
I don't know how I feel about that. But
yeah, it didn't last. I think it only happened for one weekend or maybe just a couple weekends. I don't even remember. I wasn't even watching Formula One as much as I do now. Back when that happened, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, but it was fascinating qualifying. So George had his best qualifying P4. Max had an issue with his DRS
all weekend
in Q3.
Seemed like.
So it definitely should have been some foreshadowing going into today. But he had an issue where he thought he was losing power, so he actually didn't get a second lap in. But Leclerc was able to get the perfect lap in, land on pole, pretty far ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
But they looked better. The Ferraris looked better with qualifying pace all weekend, whereas like Red Bull looked the fastest. Mercedes was the fastest in straight line speed, which kind of mirrors what it looked like last year towards the end. Mercedes being fastest. So once they nailed their porpoising, they've nailed their straight line speed, which everyone was really giving shit to Ferrari and Mercedes.
And I'll tell you, Lewis, barring the incident, Lewis looked good.
Well, yeah, no, I know.
I mean, I had Lewis today. I thought he was going to win, and he started in 6th. He qualified in 6th.
I know. And granted, if he would have had a normal race, you may have actually been right.
He would have been fighting for podium.
Yeah. Well, he would have been fighting for the win, I feel.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
So.
Yeah, I think their car is back. I think they're ready to rock. Mercedes is.
I think they still have a little bit of work to do, and I think that they're both and the team is being very open, but I think this is a really good step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. We don't have a whole lot of time to waste, and it was like the rumor, well, if Mercedes can't fix their issues by Barcelona, they're going to stop working on development of this year's car. But I think even the practice, post-qualifying interviews, everybody was jazzed up. Like, Lewis was so positive.
Oh, very smiling.
George,
oh, yeah.
Toto, everybody. So
yes.
They know they're making a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on to the race. Mm-hmm. So, pre-race predictions, you had Hamilton winning.
I did. And
you had Verstappen DNFing.
I did. I thought there was going to be some car issues.
Is that because he didn't get to the grid? He only had 6 seconds to actually get out of the garage?
Yeah. He didn't get out early for reconnaissance laps, and they kept him in the garage. They were fixing some stuff. And I go, all right, here we go. That DRS actuator, the piston that opens and closes that wing, is a bigger issue than it is. And that's just, Red Bull has had some reliability issues.
Yeah, but they haven't in a few races, so it's been
you're not wrong.
It's been promising for them.
Yeah.
So
I figured they were due.
Yeah, you had Hamilton. I had Verstappen winning, so I'm like, I did get that right.
You win this week.
I did get that right.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm not going to lie, I've pretty much said Verstappen's going to win every race since the season started. So, but you know what? He just looks strong. Like, he doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes at all. And to be quite honest, like, I think today was the first time I've seen Max actually make mistakes.
Yeah,
like,
he made 2 pretty big ones.
I mean, the one going off the track at turn 4, but then,
But his spin was, he actually caught his spin.
Drift King,
and actually was able to almost pull it out. He didn't do a full donut or, go into this.
Yeah, he didn't go into it so hot. Yeah. So I had Max winning, so, kudos to that. Everything else was wrong for the two of us. So I think I did have Leclerc actually DNFing, though, to be honest.
Yeah, so you thought it was going to be him?
I have been saying Leclerc is going to DNF for like the last couple races. One of the Ferraris, I'm like, one of the Ferraris is going to DNF. So hopefully Leclerc got it out of his way this week. Yeah. He got the crash in Monaco out of his way already. So we'll see. Will he win in Monaco?
Yeah, I do think so. Yeah. So, but for the start of this race, Perez got a really good start. Max was okay.
George had a great start.
Yeah. Then we saw coming around, they made it. Everybody made it through turn one, turn two, through turn two. Lewis had a pretty good start too, and actually was, I think, maybe up one position or so. And then Magnussen was kind of trying to battle him and kind of coming around on the outside. And I know how you feel. You're pretty heated, and you want to meet Magnussen in the parking lot. You're one of those people. I get it. I think he was at fault here. Now, did the stewards say they said it was a racing incident?
It was a racing incident. Yeah. Okay, listen.
First laps usually are.
Here we go. You've explained it. I will explain it now.
Okay.
So,
granted, she wanted to be in the parking lot waiting for him.
I did not want to be in the parking lot waiting for Magnussen, but Magnussen was at fault.
Okay.
100%. 110%.
10% more.
Anyways, so he was like about to get the jump on Carlos. Carlos had, he was able to get ahead again. And then it was like Magnussen, he moved up one position. Yeah. And he's trying to battle with Lewis. He's on the outside. And it turned freaking 4. Like turn 4. Lewis is on the line. And Magnussen comes up and he just oversteers into him.
Yeah, I will agree.
Oversteers into him. Like, okay, I get it. You're fighting to get the position or whatever, but don't get on the radio and be like, oh my God, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. What was he doing? Turning his wheel? Was he going around the corner?
Yeah.
Like, I'm confused. So then I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, in the heat of the moment, but then after the race to be like, I got hit and I had the puncture and it ruined my race. Like, okay, well, you guys both got punctures. You turned into him. We saw the onboards. Yeah, more than enough room.
And they were both in the back of the field, and look who made the moves. But that's also, Haas still doesn't seem to have quite enough.
Well, we also saw the same move that Lewis did in a tighter turn later on Bottas. That was clean.
It was.
On the outside. So it's like, it is what it is. Whatever.
There was plenty of room on the outside for Magnussen to not be that close to Lewis. Lewis was keeping it tight, nice to the apex for sure. I would agree with that. So, yeah, I do agree that it was Magnussen's fault. However, first laps.
I don't need to be. I wasn't like trying to meet him in the parking lot, okay? I was like disappointed because I'm like.
I mean, you were like ready to go blow for blow, fist for fist.
I have seen myself get crazier during a race, and this was not one of them. I wasn't standing up on the couch. I wasn't acting crazy. I was like just.
You have done that all the
I was
all of the
just
above.
Heartbroken because I'm like, shit.
It's time.
Really, Mercedes is finally starting to look good.
Yep.
And then Lewis gets a puncture to the point where he's coming to into a turn and his wheel locked up and he has 75% of the lap. And I'm like, fuck, he's about to DNF. Like he cannot catch a break. So luckily he made it back to the pits.
He did. And he complained a little bit. He said, hey, we should save the engine for another day. Kind of like, I think just that's like the negative thoughts running through his head. But then his team, Bono says, his Bono said, no, we're looking at a points finish, top eight for sure, maybe even better. And Lewis that proved it.
That was the last we heard of Lewis. And
they didn't really talk about him much after that.
We didn't hear about him for a long time. And then everyone was like, we haven't heard about Lewis. Oh, wait, he's like in 7.
Yeah. But that's just because the top of the field with Max and George, they were battling. There was a pretty good battle going on. However, Leclerc was just kind of going off in the sunset, kind of had his own thing going.
Leclerc was, yeah.
And Max needed to get by Russell, but was having tons of issues.
You have to remember, things started popping off pretty quick. So Carlos went off like lap 7.
Yeah.
And then 2 laps later, Max went off.
Yeah.
So then Russell, who was battling at the time with Perez, were able to get by.
Yeah.
That's when the drama started.
Yeah, and Max. So this is where a lot of people, especially like Supermax fans, and you can even yell at us if you like, you guys in years before would always be like, oh, Lewis has a teammate that, gets out of the way and just plays the team wingman really well. Well, last year, Sergio played a pretty good wingman, and this year seems to be doing that. However, this race today, he seemed like he was actually standing up for himself.
We're not sure how happy he was about it. So basically, before this or after the Max went off the track thing, we triggered the first pit stop. So, but the rolling order was George and Max. They were battling, and George was holding Max up.
Well, yeah,
because Max had the issue with DRS.
Do you think they would have been held up that long
with DRS?
Yeah, no. I don't think so either. I think he would have gotten by.
No, but that's not Sergio's fault.
No, it's not, and it's not his fault that that Max went off and got behind him. You're right.
Here's the thing: is Perez he's coming up, and I was like, man, he's about to be right on Max. George is holding him up. Really great racing. Really great. That was pretty exciting.
And what was funny is on that time, Sergio was on a one-stop strategy, and you were just like, that ain't going to happen.
I don't think it would have happened. Sergio ended up hitting 3 times.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was going to do a one-stopper.
It would have been a 2-stop strategy, which probably it was just, I don't know, a hoax, and they were just putting it out there so everybody would think that that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely,
Max was not able to get by George. George did a great job defending. George did a really good job today. He was the new minister of defense.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of talk from Crofty and Brundle about, is he making 2 moves? Is he kind of making the move in the braking zone? And I think everything was pretty clean. He was waiting to the very, very last minute, and it seemed like George was always taking the inside onto turn 1, was never giving inside up until
Max passed him, and then George passed him back on the outside and got past him.
It was pretty sweet because George made that move to go to the inside, and Max just went all the way in and went on the inside, and that was a pretty good move. And maybe he could have still did it if Max went on the outside, but yeah, I think Max had to go really far in and had a really tight to the apex, so that forced him to kind of be a little late on everything, and
I don't know.
that's how George was able to get around him, because George was to stay on the proper line, brake properly,
and he didn't give up. He
got right back in front of him, and that was that was a good battle.
It was a good battle.
I would have loved to have seen Max without the DRS problem to see how that would have transferred. It could have been the 4 laps or however many laps it was still, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we may have just seen the same thing with the Charles and Max, but I also think that Red Bull was a lot faster than Mercedes this weekend. But no, I just think Max was being held up. I think Checo got on the radio and said, get Max out of my way.
Yeah, because
I'm faster and I can get past them both at the time. And it was like, okay, you got it. Didn't happen.
Nope.
And so he just dealt with it. They pitted. He eventually got into first. Then Leclerc finally, went in and actually pitted. So, and then the whole thing with Leclerc retiring. So all that battling was basically for the lead and what's going to happen. What would have happened if they would have let Perez get through during that time instead of...
Right. How far ahead could he have gotten based on his strategy that he was currently on at that time? You're right. 100%. He probably could have.
And for me, I'm just like, the championship is still so close. To hold up a driver who is performing stronger, and when you looked at the lap over lap, Perez was performing stronger. And then Max was having issues with his car. So to just hold up one of their drivers, it just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, I mean, they're...
And that was the first thing.
Yeah. I think, look, Red Bull
Maybe I'm just a Checo fan. I don't know.
We're a Checo fan, and there's lots of Checo fans. I think it's what, like 38% of F1 merchandise is Checo merch. I think that's what I heard.
Well, he's just, he's a good guy. He's a great racer.
Huge following in all the Latino, Latin, all that area.
We were in Spain,
So I mean, when we were down in Miami, everyone, I mean, a lot of people had Max stuff on, but just about everyone that was wearing Red Bull gear was definitely a Sergio fan. There was definitely some Max fans, but a lot of them were Sergio fans for sure.
Yeah, so I mean that was that. Leclerc retired out of nowhere, kind of. It's like race 2.
Because he had such a good lead, such commanding lead.
We weren't even paying attention to him. He was like,
and
just do your thing.
and the announcers, when they cut to it finally, they weren't even like in
they
high
probably
energy.
didn't even know, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, and here comes Magnussen and it's Schumacher. Here comes Hamilton and it's Russell.
Well, they're like, the Ferrari. A Ferrari's going slow. Is that? Oh, it's Leclerc.
Oh, that sucks.
Then they cut to the garage for Ferrari, and they're like, oh, they're making space, moving the chairs.
Yeah, I guess he's retiring. So it wasn't a huge deal, which is crazy. But so that happened, and then it was like, I feel like there was 100 pit stops today, like 100. It was hard to keep track, but everybody was on, should we do 2, should we do 3 type of strategy.
I think most teams did 3 stops.
Most people did 3. The people who did 2 suffered. Bottas, Schumacher. Like you definitely saw them start to drop off at the end.
Yeah.
But it was difficult because it's hard to say, like Hamilton pitted on lap 1, Magnussen pitted on lap 1, and then Magnussen went to hards, whereas Lewis went to another set of mediums, and so that he pitted again, whereas Magnussen tried to go to the end. So that's the difference. But yeah, so we had a little shake-up. Perez was a little bit later on the first pit stop, and that's when they were like, oh, he's on a one-stop strategy.
Yeah.
Then Max went in for a second put on softs, and I'm like, okay, first of all,
he's going to get 8 laps out of those.
How many is he going to get out of that? But then I'm like, there's no way that Perez is going to go. It was 45 laps on medium.
Yeah, you're like,
tires.
No way.
As good as he is, there's no way.
Yeah,
so I'm
I
like,
didn't think so either.
There's some type of like message being said here. But irregardless, he felt like he had the better strategy, and then was told on the radio, essentially, if Max is faster, you need to let him by.
Yeah.
And
he goes, that's unfair, but okay. And it's just, he's just doing his job, and he got out of the way
very easily.
Very easily. And so, like, a lot of these people that were hating on Lewis and Bottas last year and years before, like, you can't say anything, because last year at this very race, Bottas was told to give the place back to Lewis, and Bottas made him fight for it.
Yeah, and that was when Lewis decided to go for his 3rd stop.
Yeah.
And he had to come and overtake Bottas again.
Those were the 2 big highlights from the race last year,
and
honestly.
Now, granted, we have seen times where they're like, okay, let Lewis by for the championship or whatever.
Yeah, and sometimes he has done that for sure.
I think that Perez he's only 25 points behind Max.
Yep.
So to say that the championship between the 2 of them is over already.
It's still real early. We have 22 races this year.
It seems crazy to me for them to do that.
Yeah.
Because Max probably, granted, Leclerc's DNF still would have moved into first. It just would have been a tighter battle between him and Leclerc going into Monaco.
Yeah.
But we're only on freaking race 6.
Yeah.
So to give it up, it seems a little wrong. Seems a little wrong.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, their strategies were different, but if that first approach, he would have got past, his tires would have been able to hold up a lot more.
They're just still treating Max like he's the world champion. And
he is.
And they want them to be the world champion again. So, so that's just the name of the game at Red Bull. Sergio signed up for that.
Yeah, true.
unfortunately. I would like to see Sergio.
I would like to be a fly on the wall in the post-race conversation that Sergio wants to have with everybody.
He did say he wanted to have a
He
conversation.
said, "I'm very happy for the team, but we need to talk later."
Yeah.
So even in the post-race interview, he was very like, "I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get in trouble," type of thing. So
he's just a good guy, good racer.
No, he is.
And he's
He is.
he's probably just a little bummed because he thought he could have probably pushed those tires a little bit harder.
well, he 100% was like, "I could have won the race if I would have stuck to the strategy that I had."
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, they pitted him for a third
Yeah.
time to get fastest
So he
lap,
had 4 tires.
and they could have conceded Max to get that because he had such a gap, but they chose not to do that. So interesting, but. Enough about Red Bull. We haven't talked about Lewis like at all.
Yeah, so Lewis was really having a good race.
Lewis was in P19, 50 seconds behind Latifi coming
after
back out.
coming into lap 2. And
I was like, he is giving up. He is seriously like, I'm about to, like, let me retire this car. And I'm like,
I mean, look, he was going to do that, and he was, for a little bit, in P4.
okay, yeah, no, I know. But for a minute, like for like 30 laps, he was like P16 or lower.
Yeah.
So first of all, to go from P6, which he didn't qualify the greatest because he is claiming all the Delta issues. He was like, so-and-so and so-and-so were holding me up. So he was already behind, had a pretty decent start to get a puncture, have to go in. It was not an ideal circumstance.
No, he was just now on a totally different strategy tire-wise and was able to capitalize on all of the people that were on softs early on from the start of the race. That's how he was able to do a lot of jumps because of a lot of the pitting that they were doing because he went to mediums. And so he was able to stay up. He went to softs?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so Lewis is the only driver that started on mediums.
Lewis started on the mediums.
He's the only one that started on mediums, and so he went to softs right away.
Got it.
And
for some reason, I thought it was the other way.
Then he went medium soft, but no, it was he was definitely defeated. He was down, and I think we should say they took new engines, both Mercedes cars this weekend.
Yeah,
so
those cars were looking good, though.
Let's save it. And Bono was like, no, we need to go. You can get at least some points. And I'm like, you know what? Honestly, I kind of feel like I was feeling that way. Like, whatever. It is what it is. And then he wasn't making any traction. So I'm like, oh my God, he's I don't know what's going to happen. But Lewis being Lewis, I feel like it helped him perform even stronger. I mean, at points, he was pumping out fastest laps in freaking P13.
He was.
P12. Come on. So just crazy. So to see what a comeback drive, I was voting for him. I was like 1,000,000% driver of the flipping day.
Yeah, definitely driver of the day for me too, without a doubt. Looked good after he got over his little woes. He made that car perform. He did some moves in certain areas of the track that people don't normally ever get to see moves happen. So it just shows how strong that car really was and how much he was pushing it. It reminded me of last year and years before when his car was so dominant.
People were comparing this weekend, in a sense, to Brazil of 2021.
Sure.
Now, Brazil 2021 was definitely a masterclass because he started in last place, but he also started the actual race in P10. So what could we have seen this weekend? Like, do you think Lewis, and I know you've planned for him to win, but
I did.
I feel like he could have won this. Feel like he could have won this race today.
I do too, and it's unfortunate, but
which would have been really monumental because I think last year Barcelona was his 100th pole. So, and he's won literally the last 5 Spanish Grand Prix. So, I think this weekend kind of held a little bit of
I think
sentiment.
he wanted it, and I think he's not far off. He's going to get it. I even think Russell's probably going to get his first win.
I know. I'm ready. I'm ready for Carlos to get a win. I'm ready for Norris to get a win.
We were saying that, but we're still only in race 6 or finished race 6, so it's still a lot more races to do. But man, it's looking like it's going to be a little tougher for Norris. Granted, he was sick this weekend, but. They got to do something a little bit more with the car.
They do.
To get it up into that front of the pack. However,
a lot can happen. We saw crazy stuff last year, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But it is looking like a Max is unstoppable.
Yeah, he's looking
Type of
pretty
season.
sharp.
He has won every race that he's literally finished. So 4 races he's finished out of the 6.
And a sprint.
4 races he's won. Yeah, and a sprint.
Yep.
And he officially has a hat trick. He's won the last 3 races. So he's looking pretty unstoppable. Although we saw a couple mistakes today, which is out of his character. So I'm sure he'll be back stronger than ever in Monaco, trying to win again back-to-back years.
Yeah, but with him winning and Sergio coming too with that 1-2, Max is now the leader in the Drivers Championship, and Red Bull is now the lead in the Constructors Cup.
Yeah.
So
a lot has changed this weekend.
Yeah, a big change. Now we're going into Monaco in 1 week time, which is great because we get back-to-back races, which was something that I do enjoy. Who are you picking for Monaco?
I don't know.
I know it's early
I never
on.
say. I never want to say. I'm like...
You're like, I need to see. I need to see
practice.
But Monaco is one of those races that usually whoever gets...
pole is going to win.
That's right, because it's hard to pass.
Unless it's Charles.
I'm rooting for Charles. I want him to get one of his home wins. I think that would be a pretty epic race.
I would love
to see that happen.
Yeah, I love when they win their home race. It would be good for him to break the curse, I think, because he
has never finished.
Yeah, and he deserves that. He deserves to not be, Charles can never finish a race in Monaco type of thing. Yeah. And then of course he crashed at the historic thing. And
he did.
It would be good to see him. But I also would like to see somebody different. I mean, we're 6 races in. We've only seen basically the same 2 teams, pretty much the same 2 racers.
Yeah,
win.
I mean, we could see Daniel, because Daniel's won here, and he's coming second here before.
Yeah, we could see Russell.
Could.
Mercedes has supposedly got some fixes for those low-speed corners.
Yeah, this is hopefully their track, so they have a good idea to, you're right.
We shall see. We shall see.
So before we kind of get this wrapped up, anything else?
I don't think so.
No?
It was an exciting race. If you haven't watched it, you better watch it.
Yeah.
We've already watched the race recap, the 30-minute rundown, the highlights.
I definitely recommend it. It was definitely a good midfield battles, front of the pack battles, car troubles, everything. So
are you still feeling the same for Constructors Championship going to Ferrari?
It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a battle. I right now Red Bull's looking very strong.
I think...
this is their second 1-2.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're looking strong still. They took a pretty commanding lead here.
They are, but they better treat Sergio right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. So, I guess that kind of wraps up the Spanish GP breakdown with what we have.
We'll see.
Oh, hold on. Before we go, I got to say one thing. I did forget to bring it up. The fans have been complaining about how long the queue lines are for food and beverages and everything like that. Now, I know we talked about it because we went to Miami, how hot it was. Now, I know it was hot, just as hot there, if not hotter there.
Yeah.
And they didn't have proper bottle filling stations.
Water stations, food. They ran out of food.
Ran out of water, I heard.
No, I know. They didn't have water stations.
People were getting dehydrated and fainting. And I said this when we were in Miami, that I think it was happening there too. Just because the condition of what you were in, how thirsty you were and how dehydrated you were. I think it could be pretty bad. And I think F1 and however the event planners, they need to figure that out. They need to add more shade. These days are hot, especially we're coming into summer. And if you're making people stand in a line for water for an hour,
and then there isn't anything available,
that's pretty bad. So
just the ticket prices. So we've got to do better.
Yeah, they got to do better. Especially, one of the people said we stood in line for 5 hours, and I watched 45 minutes of racing. Yeah, that's not good, man. Especially for these ticket prices. I would agree 100%. So that's my 2 cents. That's all I got. Now that I remembered, we got to make it better. Yeah,
we do. Especially as the sport continues to grow. I mean, we're seeing more and more people. We saw Drake bet on today's race,
which he's never done before, apparently.
And hopefully he has some type of knowledge. He did bet on Charles, and unfortunately he lost almost $300,000. So, but he's got the money.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But yeah, it's definitely getting popular, especially here in America, for sure. And I guess Monaco won't be as hot, and it's more of a city race, and it's glamorous and everything. So maybe they won't have such issues like they'd have.
Well, I mean, they've been having the race there forever, but they've been having it forever in Spain too. So
They have,
I'm surprised.
I'm surprised too.
To hear that.
I was too, and especially since it's a like true track where they have, because Miami wasn't a track. It's kind of like an amusement park type setup, around it's around an arena that they kind of converted, you know what I mean? And it felt like an amusement park, yes.
They did a great job. They did a great job setting it up. They had so much. I mean, there was accessibility everywhere. Like, yes, the lines were still long, but they had water stations where you could like just refill your water bottles.
But honestly, the longest line I waited in was for the food, and it was only long because I wanted that particular food. If I wanted to go somewhere else, and
it was like the intermission time. It was
I could have gotten food within a few moments, and I did complain before about shade, but considering what they're talking about online right now about this race, we had plenty of shade. We
always found something.
We found something. I know some people did complain about it in Miami, but yeah, we were able to find something. Maybe it was because we weren't like we didn't have regular seats. We had general admission.
Yeah.
However, Spain had that issue. But that's all I got, really. I have summing it up. Sorry, it was on a negative one at the end. If you've made it this far, thank you. Please like, subscribe. We need more people on our channel. We appreciate every comment and everything you guys talk about.
We want the content. We want to talk to you guys. So.
Yeah. So that kind of sums it up for us. We'll see you within a week time here, and we'll be talking about the Monaco GP. So until next time, enjoy that race. All right.
Fingers crossed it's like more hype than last year. So
all right.
We shall see.
See you later.
Bye.